Order, please, this regular meeting of the Joshua Basin Water District Board of Directors for February 19, 2025. It is now in session at 5:30 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Determination of a quorum. Acting General Manager Ann Roman, a roll call, please.
President Flowen.
Here.
Vice President Doolittle.
Here.
Director Fick.
Here.
Director Jarlsberg.
Here.
Director Short.
Here. 5. All directors are present in the boardroom. There is no request for remote participation. We have a quorum. Approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
That's your voice vote. Those in favor of approving this evening's agenda, say aye.
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 Something like it. Aye. Those voting no. Motion approved. Jeff?
Hello, good. How are you?
So far. Public comment. This designated time is for members of the public to provide comments on any district-related matter, whether appearing on the agenda or not. Under provisions of the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. At the discretion of the board president, comments on particular agendized items may be deferred until that item is heard. Does anybody have a public comment? That would be you, Charles. What?
Yeah, I was wondering, I think, a couple months ago, you said something about, replacing the pipes. Has that been done or is that in progress?
Want to handle that, Ann?
I'm not sure, sir, which pipes you're referring to. The district is undergoing a capital improvement replacement program, working on replacing main lines throughout.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yes, sorry.
That is still ongoing. That project is still ongoing. It's actually I believe a 30-year project to complete beginning to end. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank you very much.
You're
It's
welcome.
our intention to replace approximately 160 miles of pipe in that time. And one of the issues that we have is that the price of the 8-inch PVC pipe has gone from $5.66 a foot to $23.32 a foot. And then all of the connectors and fire hydrants and stuff, they've also gone up in price too. So, and then we have some personnel retention issues these days too. So we're on a bit of a pause with that, but we've prioritized getting started with it again. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, sure. Thanks for coming. Hearing nothing further. Acting General Manager Roman, is there written, electronic, or voicemail public comment?
There are none to my knowledge.
Public comment time is now closed. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. If a board member would like an item handled separately, it will be removed from the consent agenda, that is, for separate action. We have 2 items on the consent calendar this evening. They're the draft minutes of the board meeting of February 5, and also the check register for December of 2025. Does anybody want to remove one of these or both items from the consent calendar? Director Jarlsberg.
Yeah, the check register.
Yes, ma'am. Well, let's see, let's wait. Let's wait on that, and that becomes item number 6.
Okay,
And so how about from the draft minutes? Does anybody want to make amendments on that?
I move the minutes be passed in the consent calendar as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. So the consent calendar minus the check register has been approved. So item number 6 is the check register for December 2025. What's the draft for it?
Did we need to vote on a consent calendar? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had to read my script, yeah. So is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
We did that.
We did
We
that.
just didn't vote.
You approved it as the minutes is what you did, but obviously you pulled B. So that was really all that was left. So I think that probably counts.
Okay, yeah, I have some questions. I wasn't, because mostly this is because we just eliminated the finance committee meetings, and this is the first opportunity to review the minutes of the check register. And I wasn't sure how we were going to deal with that today, but I do have some questions on it. I didn't know if there was anything that Ian wanted to elucidate to us.
Well, I anticipated that we would be having more questions about the check registers. since
Okay,
we don't
yeah.
have a Finance committee these days.
Yeah,
So
So-
proceed.
okay. I just have a few things. It looks good. It wasn't as big as some of them in the past. But just one quick question, and I see Kathleen is here. She may be able to answer it. The arborist services I noticed went up for a month, and I wondered if that's a normal increase, they're just charging more, or was there something that went on at the demo garden that needed a little more conditioning or something?
That's a normal increase.
Oh, okay.
Increase that
Okay,
started out here, and then she started doing out front as well.
oh, that's right.
Every now and then, we do pay extra to trim all the trees. So that will be in it. I think January's check register.
Yeah, okay, I was just curious.
Not abnormal.
Right. And then the other one, on page 14 or page 2 of 6. Near the top, the Copper Mountain Broadcasting Company. I just wondered this was, some ads that went, on the air apparently, during December. I wondered, what are the call letters or call numbers for that radio broadcasting?
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so they are actually 2 platform radio stations. They broadcast from Honolulu Desert. Or people driving to work in the low desert can carry the signal and go on down to switch. But it's 96.2 and
The 1077 maybe?
No, no,
it's Copper Mountain Broadcasting.
yeah,
96 and 92 point something.
oh, okay.
96 and 92. They're both point something.
Is 96 up here?
One is up here.
Yeah,
Technically, their broadcasting station is up here, but they have through the FCC 2 frequencies.
oh,
And one frequency broadcasts somewhere around right after the Morongo Pass when you're down there.
mhm.
So continues with our news. And the other one is strictly here for the whole area.
And they're based at the college?
No.
Oh, I just wondered what the Copper Mountain.
Well, you'll see when you drive all the way to 29, there's a.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
Radio tower.
Tower.
That tower, but they have 2 frequencies that they broadcast on.
Oh, good.
92.7.
I knew it was 92 and 96, but I always forget the point. It's point something.
Well, I'll look for it. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see, on the next page, oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Where'd it go? Okay, next page 15 of the packet. Oh, I was gonna ask the general manager, I forgot she wasn't gonna be here. Down at the bottom, we pay an annual fee for Parcel Quest, and I'm familiar with what that is. But I attempted to access it this afternoon and I didn't know how to get there. Do we have to have a sign in?
Yes, it's a
For that.
subscription service.
Can the board have access to that?
I don't know. I would have to ask.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, we share one sign-in, so all the staff uses the same sign-in for that. So it could, potentially cause it to be busy when staff is trying to get in, but.
Do it at night then, I guess.
Sure about that. You
Okay,
know what it is. We use that to obtain the mailing addresses for parcels that's not available on the county tax roll information. And we use that for liens and that type of thing.
I've been getting attempting to go on the county website to find the parcel numbers or the addresses of the parcel numbers and it's not the same. They've changed it. So I thought maybe I'd try the Parcel Quest.
Yeah,
It's get into it either, so.
oh, yeah, it's not publicly available.
Okay,
Yeah,
but,
I'll ask.
okay,
Yeah.
but. I think I had another. Oh. Yeah, I think that's all for me. Thank you. I don't think there was, yeah.
I've got one. I'm looking at, it's page 15, it's 2/3 of the way down, it's NBF. And we're paying them 556. And so I'm kind of curious, is that still where we're building up this process of whatever they're doing, or is this for product that we actually got from them?
This is a special project that they're doing for us. The cost allocation plan is the overhead rates that have not been revised in over a decade, probably 2 decades, if I'm realistic about it. And so they're doing a study to determine what those overhead rates should be so that we can more accurately charge projects and customer projects, those, even more importantly than our own projects, so that we're passing along the correct costs to the customers. So this is one, I'm not remembering the total of the budget for this, but I want to say 16,000. Thank you, 16,500 is the total project cost. We're not too far into the billing of this, but we're actually getting close to a review process. The project manager just contacted me yesterday to set up a review appointment. So we're kind of getting close to the end of the work, so.
So this is a single, just this single report that we're going to get, or is this going to be an ongoing?
No, it'll be a single report.
Oh, wish it was ongoing. On page 16, near the bottom, there's training for an employee, $691. Curious about what that was for. I assume a certification of some kind.
I'm sorry, page 16 and where was it?
Yeah, at the bottom, right on page employee.
Sarah's.
Oh, yeah, let me, sorry. The credit card. Yeah, so that's on Sarah's credit card, and it was the hotel for the board secretary conference. There were, I'm just trying to see, yeah, that was the only one that was for a conference. There were a few reimbursements on the check register that were also for Aqua JPIA Fall Membership Summit. But this particular one on the credit card was just for the hotel room for the board secretary. That's CSD.
It's actually, it's a GM conference.
Oh, GM conference? Okay.
Yeah, it's CSDA.
CSDA GM conference?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Do any of the other board members have a question?
Yep.
Thought you did.
Okay, page 16 and 17. 16, it is, I'm just curious, the HDMC annual discharge permit, 28,000. Who is that paid to?
So that is for the High Desert Medical Center wastewater treatment facility, which will be reimbursed to us. We pay the bills on their behalf and then we bill them and they reimburse us. It's State Water Resources Control Board, SWRCB. That's who it's paid to, and you can see theirs is much larger than the one right above it, which is our own annual discharge permit fee. So our own is 3,900 in contrast with their 28,000. So for the wastewater facility.
Oh, okay. And on page 17 is respect to water quality specialist for the HDMC operation and maintenance. Is that per month?
Yes, so they are managing, along with Dudek, they manage that wastewater treatment facility on behalf of the hospital. And we, again, we're just paying those bills and then passing that cost along to the hospital. So we have somebody here that oversees that, but the actual work is contracted out to Dudek and to this water quality specialist.
Okay. It's not a request yet, but I'd be curious as to what it takes to run a water treatment plant that size.
Yeah.
That's the only one we got in JT, so.
Yeah, it's, I was actually just looking at the budget for that, for this year. I think it's around 260,000, including the overhead that they pay to us to manage it on their behalf, which is 22.5%. So about 260,000 is what the budget sits at for 24-25.
And that's for the hospital and the CCC units,
Just for the wastewater treatment facility at the hospital.
but includes CCC.
Yes, I think they're all connected to that.
Well, thank you.
So was that another bond that funded the construction of all that?
No, it was not funded through a bond. It was actually initially when it was constructed, we were supposed to own it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And then in the end, it was decided that the hospital was going to own it instead. So there was a lot of negotiation and back and forth, and we have a contract with them. But I want to say how that financially worked. I would have to research it again. It's been a while, so I don't recall off the top of my head all the details.
Well, you're suggesting that they handle that. It's not that part of it, the construction of it isn't through us, or because of that muddy water thing where it was handed off?
That's what I'm not positive about, how that transaction. The land wasn't ours, no, but I think
That was what started it.
oh, is that what it was?
That's how things started getting wonky.
Yeah. So Kathleen was just saying, it was something related to the fact that it was not ours. But, I think we initially incurred those construction costs. And so how that then was resolved with the ownership being transferred to the hospital, I'm not sure off the top of my head. That was really early on in my career.
Well, it's been a long time then, huh?
It's been, yes, it's been a long time. They're actually, they have a note receivable through the district for their capacity fees that they owed the district. And we are, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years of collecting on that. And that was a 15-year note. So we're well into that project. So it's been a minute since I looked at those details, but I can find out more for you. I think it's something that Sarah wants to revisit, that contract and bring up to speed a little bit more. That's something that was negotiated in a prior administration, and I think it could use a little bit of attention.
I think we can wait for Sarah to get the information before it's presented to us. I think that'd be the most time-wise way to do it. Anything further from the board? Anything from the public? Okay, is there a motion? Let's see, we don't necessarily have to do a roll call. on that. Item 6, is there a motion from the board to approve the check register for December 2025?
So move.
Actually, 2024, I see that's an error on the agenda that I didn't catch.
Either, obviously. Thank you.
All right,
for that.
so move for December 2024.
Second,
I'll second.
those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. Discussion action calendar, Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District Annual Report. This is for information only. Acting General Manager Roman, please.
Thank you very much. I have a slideshow for you today regarding for Mountain Mesa, the annual report. I'm going to get this started here. So it's my screen a little bit. Okay. All right. So this is something we started just a few years ago, reporting on this on an annual basis. Prior to that, it had not been reported, as far as I'm aware, to the board, but I think it's important because the board does serve as the board for Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District. And I think it's also important for the participants to have, to see an update on the status of that project.
This microphone, tilt it down.
Okay. Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District was established in 1996 to finance water system improvements with bonds sold to the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, as the sole bondholder. In March of that year, the district issued 4.55 million in bonds secured by special assessments on property parcels collected via property tax bills. These bonds carry a 4.5% interest rate, and payments are due twice annually and are set to be fully repaid by the year 2036. As of June 2024, the outstanding bond balance was 1.87 million. The process for collecting these assessment payments, they are collected, special assessments are collected from property owners via the county issued property tax bills, which are due in December and January. The county then remits the collected funds to the district at scheduled times throughout the year. These funds are held in trust by the district until we make the scheduled bond principal and interest payments to the USDA. Delinquencies, so property tax payments must be paid in full. And so if the property tax bill is not paid in full, if somebody were to try to exclude their Copper Mountain Mesa assessment, the county assessor would not accept that payment. And so it's a very secure way of collecting. However, after each tax payment due date, NBS, who is our administrator for this program, they are the administrator for Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District. They're also the administrator for our standby assessments, as well as we just talked about the cost allocation plan that they're working on for us. So NBS prepares a delinquency report to let us know how many parcels are delinquent after the payments become due. And they issue letters to those delinquent property owners. All these costs are passed along to the property owners in the next round of assessments. The initial delinquency rate as of 6/30/24, which looks back to 22/23, was 12.91%, which is rather high, but the initial delinquency rate typically decreases by about 87% after 5 years when the county sells tax delinquent properties, requiring payment of any outstanding property tax bills. Thus, the historical delinquency rate for the assessment district stands at 1.45% through the 22-23 billing cycle. And the district has no foreclosure covenant in place. That means we cannot foreclose on, or we do not foreclose on properties that have not paid. However, because these charges do get passed to the property tax roll, the county has the authority to run them through tax sales. All right, 1996 limited obligation improvement bonds, that's what this is called. And the district issued these bonds pursuant to the provisions of the Municipal Improvement Act of 1913. The bonds are payable and secured solely by special assessments on property parcels. And the special assessments are collected and paid by the district. However, the district is not obligated to, but may at its sole discretion advance available funds from the district treasury when the assessment payments do not meet the need to repay the bond payment. So that is really an advantage for the district. The fact that we are not contingently liable for this debt if the bond payments that we receive from the assessment district participants fall short, we are not obligated to, as a district, make up for that. We do have a reserve account that is required to be in place, and that's there in case that should happen. However, beyond that, we're not obligated to advance funds. The bonds, again, bear an interest rate of 4.5% per annum, and the principal and interest are payable September 2nd, principal only, and March 2nd, which would be the interest payment of each year. We have on this slide also, and in your packet, a schedule right out of the audit that shows you the payback, the amortization schedule, if you will, for that principal and interest.
On page 29 at the top.
On page 29, yes. Thank you.
29.
All right, so that's how those payments flow. And for compliance purposes, we have two reports that are prepared by NBS for us. One is the annual report, which provides a summary of the bond's financial status, including repayment schedules, billing details, delinquency information, etc. I've included an abbreviated version in the agenda and a full version available on our website. There's a QR code at the back of the annual report that's included in the packet on page, sorry, let me find it. I think it's on the final page 47. If you're interested in looking at the full report on our website, the only difference is that the full report lists each of the parcel details, and I didn't include that in the packet, so it'd be quite lengthy.
It's not helpful anyway for anything.
It would be helpful for an individual assessment district participant, but that's available for them. The additional compliance item is a continuing disclosure annual report, which NBS also prepares for us by December 31st of each year. They do this based on a requirement under the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC rule. It must be submitted to the EMA, Electronic Municipal Access website, along with the district's most recent audited financial statements. And that also I have an abbreviated version of in the packet with a QR code and the URL on page 55. If you would like to look at the full report. So those are the details really of the loan, the bond, excuse me. And one thing that I hadn't really mentioned before, but I thought would be of interest to mention is that there is a quite an advantage to the participants of the Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District. The original participants who connect to the water system now, so if they haven't, well, at any point in time from the beginning up to now, they pay a lower charge, a track charge to the district to connect, since their assessment costs covered the major infrastructure and service line installations that was originally completed. So only minimal additional facility costs are now charged for that, for the meter and appurtenances. So it is quite an advantage for those parcels that participated. And in CMM, not all parcels participated. So that is unfortunate for the ones that didn't at the time. Yeah, so that's really the overview. I'd be happy to take any questions about this topic.
Questions or comments? President Doolittle.
Hi, Ann. Thank you for your always good presentations and you know, they've improved since I've been here, and it's really nice to see graphics and stuff like that. So I appreciate it. And bringing this up, it made me think, and I saw that it's not on my list. I knew that there were some things missing from this direct to request, even though it's quite comprehensive. And I know there was a lot of work done, and I'm afraid whenever I say anything that Lisa takes it personally, and I certainly don't mean it that way. Yeah, regarding, I wanted us to investigate whether or not we could consider how Bighorn Water District uses the liens process and the property tax process for recovering bills. And I just wondered if you'd have anything to say about that in relation to this, or I don't know if you guys have done any more investigation about that or not.
Well, these particular assessments are already going on the property
Yes.
tax roll, but I think you're referring to other types of charges that we might want to do the same with. It's in the strategic plan and the new strategic plan.
Oh, okay.
So it is on the list there.
I forgot that, but yeah, you're right.
And I've actually posed a question to our legal counsel about this. We've kind of gone back and forth with it a little bit. There were some concerns in the past over whether we could place charges on the tax roll for our locked basic fee. So a locked basic fee is a situation where we are automatically reverting to the owner to charge that basic fee, even if, excuse me, even if they haven't signed up for service. So there's not an explicit contract in place with them, except the original owner, when they purchased the meter, when they connected to the system, I should say, may have entered into a contract. The language is really not there, I think, even in the original documentation. But the original documentation is also hit or miss as to whether we can find it. And many of these parcels have turned over. The ownership has turned over maybe multiple times since the original meter was purchased. And so there is a question about whether we can legally put those types of charges onto the tax roll. Now, what we may be able to do is, so more investigation required still. What we may be able to do, however, is place our liens on the tax roll. Yeah, so it is on the list.
Okay, and there's been some consulting with Marina at Bighorn Water District regarding it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. One thing that I'm not sure they have that we have is that locked basic fee. And that's what may give us some trouble with being able to do that.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused. It just seems to me if it wouldn't be legal to take care of it there, how is it? We are asking people to take care of that basic fee when they come on with the house. Then how is it legal for us to do it there and not the other spot?
Yeah, that I'm not
You're
sure.
figuring that out. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
working
cool.
through that.
That's cool. Thank you. That's all from me.
Director Fick.
Okay. Somewhat from this. You said that some of the parcels had opted out. So when this was formed in 96, did every parcel have a choice of whether to be in it or not, or was it sort of regional?
No, so this is interesting. So Susan Greer wrote a memo about this before she retired. And I just reviewed this this week in preparation for this presentation. And it really, it's very interesting. It talks about the original development of this assessment district where all the parcels were included and the bonds ended up being unmarketable because the value of the properties there was not high enough to support the debt. And so they ended up having to go back to the drawing board and they sent out postcards to the property owners and asked whether the property owners would be interested in connecting. So rather than just automatically including everyone, they questioned the property owners at the time to find their interest in participating. And so based on that, then they, what she said was that in order to reduce the total project cost, which was the goal, they had to map the postcard responses. But it resulted in some parcels close to or within the greater assessment district boundary being excluded from the assessment district. In the end, some of the property owners that wanted to be in the assessment district were excluded and some without interest were included. So I'm not sure what their process was in going about mapping this out. But, there was some, interaction with the property owners about that. So did that answer your question?
I'd be curious as to, I assume that if they have addresses, they have buildings on the property, so it's an improved property, so hardly any of the vacant ones.
No, I think a lot out there. I mean, my guess would be that there are plenty of vacant properties that participated. They just have they have the main lines in place, they have the service lines in place, but they don't have meters in place. So they just participated from the, the property, the assessment that's going on their property tax, but they didn't finish the process by actually purchasing the meter. And I say purchasing because we talked about that not being the best term until we come up with a better one. So they've opted in and they've partially paid for the costs, but the final piece of installing the meter and those, minor appurtenances, that is left to do when they connect to the system, when they ultimately connect to the system. So, yeah,
That covers it.
is that covered?
Thank you.
Okay.
Director Jarlsberg.
You brought up one of my questions in what you were trying to describe, the map. I just wondered, I'm curious what the boundary is. And is there an estimate how many people are actually living in that boundary?
How many parcels?
Parcels and or people?
I don't know how many people there are. Parcels,
1,165
thank you.
Okay, and that's current, or was that the amount at the beginning?
as of fiscal year 23, 24.
Oh, okay.
Those are.
Yeah, I kind of got lost in the statistics here. And I had a question about the delinquent installments that seem to build over time from 0% to 13%. And do
So they
you
actually reduce over time because they're very.
delinquencies?
Yeah, the
The payment.
delinquencies reduce because the county, once they've been delinquent for 5 years,
Oh, right,
the county will take them
Right.
to tax sale.
right.
So.
I didn't know that part, but the, on this form for instance, on 45,
45.
from 2016 to 2022, the delinquent installment percentages increased.
Yes, yes. So the percentages each year, sorry, what page are you on again?
45. 3 of 4, I don't know.
Right, okay. Yeah, so those are the percentages in those years.
They keep going up.
They were actually higher in the beginning and they've come down in the first
Okay, then I don't understand this.
of the, maybe in the first 10 years of the bond repayment, the district had to draw on the reserve fund several times because the delinquency rate was so high in the beginning. It is actually lower now than it was in the initial years of this program of the assessment district. So you can see if you look at the 2002, sorry, okay, so what we're seeing here on pages 43 through 46 is actually from oldest to newest. So if you look at page 43, sorry, the delinquency is 0, and it's 0 because it's been handled by that time. By now, it's been handled from 2002. The ones that go up, I know this is confusing, but the ones for the more recent ones that haven't yet been resolved through the tax sales. On page 45.
Yeah,
If you look at that.
that's what I was looking at.
2%, yeah, that's because those are the newer ones, the newer assessments, the newer bills. And the newer bills haven't yet been resolved by the county. through tax
Oh,
sale.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of,
I mean, some of these may pay before they ever get to tax sale. This sounds like everything's going to tax sale. It's not. But, in this period of time, that 5 years that they have to pay their taxes in full, their, properties will change hands. And in that process, the property taxes will be caught up. Some property owners will just, pay their taxes late. And so, that you just see that over time decreasing.
okay, I kind of get
This
it.
reads backwards, if you follow me.
I don't follow that statement, but I follow now I understand
It's oldest to.
what's going on here.
Yeah.
But I also wondered if the people who are delinquent affect how much the bond has to be paid for. Is the bond still up to date, even though there's delinquent payments?
Yes, yes.
So it really doesn't impact on how the bond is paid over time,
It's
except the individual parcels.
Yeah, it depends on the amount of delinquencies. So as long as the delinquencies still allow us, if we have enough, if there is enough revenue coming in to pay the bond payments, then it's not a problem.
Right.
Otherwise, we have to draw on that reserve fund,
That's
which
right.
has to be reported. And, there's a whole process you have to go through if you have to draw on the reserve fund. But, again, we haven't had to do that in decades now. So
Yeah.
it's actually, I think the values have been going up over there. The area is more desirable. I think people recognize that their access to water in that area is a big advantage for them. So I think they're more desirable parcels than maybe in some other areas of the district.
Yeah.
So I think that has helped with making it more manageable out there.
The delinquencies might be more because it's changed hands or there's been something going on.
When the property sells, the property taxes have to be brought up to date. So they should be paid at that point. As long as everything is done, if it's done through escrow, that would be the case. If there's an interfamily transfer, sometimes those slip through process. So, those are the exception though, really. But normally going through escrow, all of that has to be caught up. All those property taxes have to be caught up at that point in time.
Basically, the area of the Copper Mountain
Oh, yeah.
community is kind of up in the northeast corner of our district, but I'm wondering what the and west boundaries are, yeah.
I'd have to look. I don't know off the top of my head. It's kind of a jagged. I was looking at it earlier today because I actually had we had a quote come through.
Oh, it's jagged, oh, never mind then.
Because again, there's those parcels that are opted out and the parcels that are opted in, so it's not,
Yeah,
if you look at the map.
when you said that, I
it's
figured something like,
blue, except there are some white spots in the middle all over the place.
there's a little BLM properties in there and, you know.
Oh, that may be too,
Yeah.
yeah, there may be some of those.
I used to
It's
live
not a
kind of
perfect
up there,
boundary.
but I don't know exactly if I was in that area or not.
Yeah,
80s.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think
GeoViewer has it.
GeoViewer has it, but I'm not sure if they took that down from the website, the service line estimator, they were talking about
Oh.
that because it needed to be updated. So we used to have that available on GeoViewer,
Oh,
in the service line estimator on our website. It may or may not be there because there's some work being done with the company right now that maintains that software for us.
It still exists, it's just hidden.
It's just hidden, but I'm not sure that they could go on the website and find it now. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So, do the boundaries change as we're looking at it over the years? No, so since 96, it's been the same. Okay,
correct.
right, I think I think I've driven you crazy long enough.
No, you're fine. No, it's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Short?
Yeah, so for the administration of this through a MBS, how much does that cost us?
Well, this one gets passed along to the district, the assessment district participants. I want to say it's about less than 10,000 a year, maybe. When we have to bill back all of our administrative costs, and NBS then includes that on the next assessment billing. And so I want to say 10 to 12,000 a year, and that includes, I know, that includes our administrative costs as well. So it's NBS's costs and our costs, and it's 10 to 12,000 a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
And I'll pass it along.
So I've just over time made this observation that if somebody does a bond or a loan or whatever, and there's a reserve fund involved, it's broken out immediately
Yes.
and established so that it's always there and accessible.
Right.
And I kind of think I noticed this time with this, that it looks like it would, the reserve thing, which is something like $200 and something thousand, it would cover the two payments that we make within 1 year. So that's kind of, I thought maybe that was the intent of the thing, was sized such that it would pay 1 year's worth of
It is.
payments
It is.
for like March and September or something like that.
That's correct. Yeah.
It is, really?
It is, yeah. And each year, as we move through the repayment schedule, that annual payment drops a little bit. And so that reserve fund, some of that reserve funding can be released into the redemption fund, which is part of where we build up some excess funds that we can then do a bond call with.
So presumably, the reserve fund is in LAIF, and that there is interest earned, and the interest earned would go into those two funds.
Correct. Yes, it's restricted to those funds specifically.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments?
Oh.
Oh, Director Jarlsberg.
But I'll wait to see if there's some, it's kind of a final thing I wanted to say.
Hearing none, proceed please.
I just wanted to mention that it was hard for me to follow the report or your written part of the report on page 28. I got lost because if you turn the page over, we're back on the financial report, on the check report. And I'm wondering if there's a way, and this is maybe really for Lisa, to leave the back or somehow leave this blank or somehow arrange it so that you don't have two reports on the same piece of paper.
I don't have, mine doesn't look like that.
Page 28, if you turn it over, page 27 is the end
Oh.
page of the,
I see. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
That page intentionally left blank thing.
well, it wouldn't need to be blank. I mean, I'm not sure where the blank would be.
It'd have to be blank.
It'd have to be
It'd have
blank.
to be
Because
blank.
I do it double-sided, so it'd have to be
Yeah.
blank.
So, but
Page 28 would have to be blank.
when a report starts, I'm just saying that try to have down on the back of it, the previous report.
Yeah, so we would have.
Oh,
one.
Yeah,
More paper, more paper.
Yeah.
it might be another piece of paper.
Yeah, it would.
But I'll give it to you. In fact, I have a bunch of them in the car.
Yeah, I can see that would be confusing if you get those.
So that's more of a logistics thing that difficult to follow your report, and I wanted to.
There's
Along those lines.
Yeah, well, if I printed it out, then I could just, but
I have a suggestion. It's not a request.
yeah.
I want to keep a zero on my.
Yeah.
Can we put reports, this report and similar ones in the reports section of the website? Because there's 1,165 people up there. Of them, somebody might want to review this
Totally.
without having to dig through agendas or.
There's a section for CMM in the website that has these reports on it.
Under
Yeah.
CNM,
I
CMM,
can send you
Yeah.
the link.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a section dedicated to.
Send it to all of us.
Yes, I will do that.
The only thing that would not be there is the staff report. That's part of the agenda packet. But the annual report and the continuing disclosure report, those are all in that CMM section on the website.
there's a CMM section on the website.
There is.
Under what?
I think it's under finance.
I can pull it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a race. All three of them are.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I know it's there, but it's sort of off on the side, I think, if I
It
remember
is.
correctly.
So it's under,
Okay,
On the
on
margin.
the homepage, under our district, you're gonna go to financial information. And on that page, you will see on the sidebar, there's Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District. You can click into that
Off on the right
page.
side.
there.
the NBS report would be there.
And,
Yes.
and if you're just clicking search, what would you put in there to find it?
You put copper, let me try it right now.
Copper Mountain.
Yeah, You put Copper Mountain, it's the very first page file that you can click into, and I'll take you to that page as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and the full reports are there. Not for the beginning, not from the beginning of time, but the ones that I've been sharing with the board, they're all there. Yeah.
2020.
I was here then, so I don't need to review that. Well, thank you very much. Item number 8 is reports and comments for informational purposes only on subjects not covered by the agenda. The opinions of individual directors are not necessarily, that'll keep me at a 0 on the on that page then, won't it? The opinions of individual directors are not necessarily the opinions of the board or district staff. No action will be taken. The board may provide staff with requests for future agenda items. Vice President Doolittle.
Thank you, President Flowen. A couple things, Director Shook, I'd like to know if you could let us know if it's okay with our general manager, if we could have access to the Evernote tool, if we could be added to the license. Because I would find that a useful tool, and even if the district had to pay for it.
We have individual.
Which-
I think Sarah
Okay.
has one and I have one.
Okay.
Do you have one?
Evernote?
Evernote,
Yeah,
yeah. We don't have a group license,
Okay.
like a,
No, you
sorry,
can-
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just happened.
Yeah, so if you could investigate that, because that would help me keep my notes together for these board meetings. And there's very little technology load that the board actually puts on the district, so I hope that there's not a tremendous amount of pushback to the board on that. Huh?
It's a nice.
Oh, yeah, I've used it before. That's why. Okay, so one thing I have, if these meetings are going to be canceled, the committee meetings, which I have something to say about. I would think that we don't put these things underneath the consent calendar because the check register would not be under the consent calendar anymore.
I think the odds that we would be breaking it out every time would be really high.
Yeah, so it doesn't, it's,
Yeah.
you're supposed to say these are routine and non-controversial. Well, yeah, they're controversial sometimes and usually at the finance committee, but it needs to be pulled out and not, that content doesn't need to be ahead of it where it says, that this idea if it's, acted upon the board at one time without discussion, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be discussing the check register.
Almost all the time. I think.
Right, so I'm just saying, let's pull it out.
Yep.
Okay, so, what, do we have a schedule for when the videos are uploaded from, what's the
Yes.
schedule?
So after the minutes have been approved by the board and Sarah signs it, then I'll upload it to the website and then I'll also upload the video.
Okay, so
recording.
does that mean like the minutes from our last meeting have not been signed by Sarah and that's why the video is not online? Because I wanted to watch that.
They have not been signed yet.
Okay, because the last video I saw was in December.
Well, there's.
I'm going to YouTube. Should I not be going to YouTube?
Go to our website
And don't go to
there's
YouTube. Okay.
There's a YouTube link there.
Yeah, to our channel.
Yeah, so
Right.
there is a video. I think the last one was in January.
Okay. Okay, maybe it wasn't December, maybe
Yeah,
it's January.
so,
January
on
24th.
the homepage.
Uh-huh,
in
okay.
the upper right-hand corner, it's a YouTube link and it'll has actually all of our recordings and the last one we have here.
Yeah, so the minutes that were approved tonight, Sarah, the board approved those and Sarah will sign them and then I think. the
Okay.
video will get
Okay,
uploaded
that's all I need to know. Thank you.
January ones.
Okay, I'm gonna move on if that's okay. Speaking of observations, I kind of mentioned this a minute ago, Ann, and, I had the observation, this is, after 4 years of working here, you always seem to be cheerful and willing and non-defensive with board requests. And you don't know how much I appreciate that because sometimes there's an attitude, I believe, from the district and, it may be legitimate, but that it's kind of put upon or this overloaded kind of thing where we shouldn't even be asking anything, that we're supposed to not even request anything because it's just too much for the district to even handle. But we're obligated to do our due diligence. And so I value being able to count on your openness. I just want you to know that. And I'm sure I'm not alone on that. Now that I've said that, I would like to set up a time to review the general ledger. I've never done that. I've been here for 4 years. We see these reports, that you give us. And I'm not asking for a special project report. What I would like to do is I'd just like to come in sometime over a period of time and sit for a few hours and just look through that because I think that's going to give me a different insight into what's happening.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't know if you need to run that by the quarterback, but I wanted to let you know that request.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, and then lastly, what I would like to say is that with all due respect to our venerable president,
That's me.
it is distressing to read about the permanent cancellation of our 2 standing committees without board discussion. I see this as a risky move. I don't believe this serves the public as it reduces the transparency brought about by these meetings, and this denies the board that oversight. I truly fear we will not be doing our due diligence. I believe the advantages of this will only favor the district, as the district will no longer have to prepare for these sessions. For example, the finance committee meeting has been so content-rich, its duration was increased last year. So I can't imagine that we're saying, we don't need those. So I'm also concerned that as the board, we've been told that the operations director will not be attending. And so this concerns me very much that we are going to lose that insight that we were getting, the valuable reports, et cetera, and the ability to talk to the operations team and get an understanding. Now, obviously, I realized that putting the operations strategic plan together and everything will assist with that. I see that our GM noted that the ad hocs can be added, but that has been a bone of contention, that lack of them, because there hasn't been any that have been added in the 4 years that I've been here. The only one we have is for reviewing the general manager. So I respectfully disagree with this unilateral change, and I'm disappointed in how this was handled. That's all from me. I'll be curious to see how this is reflected in the notes. Thank you.
I haven't had my shot at that yet either. Director Fick?
I actually can't think of much right now, so I'll just not much that wouldn't get me in trouble, put it that way.
Perfect. Director Jarlsberg?
Yeah, I have a couple things I wanted to report on. I did attend the Mojave Water Agency's TAC meeting, which is always more interesting, I think, than the board meeting for a variety of reasons. But I want to respond to Director Doolittle's point about the cancellation of the committee meetings on a regular basis. I agreed with it because my understanding is that we were just going to move that content to the board meetings rather than having a separate meeting, and that we could talk about, we'd get the same reports, we'd have the same amount of time to discuss them, but do it at the board meeting. And I don't think it's an elimination of any review. It was not intended to be a elimination of review of these reports. And it might make our meetings a little longer, but they'll have more content, because I think the committees were not, nobody attends them except the two board members and the people that are making the report. And in fact, the recordings of them do not go on the website. So the public is not hearing these committee meetings. And I much prefer have the reports heard during the board meeting. And that's my opinion. I did want to say that the TAC meeting, let's see, had a couple of notes here. Oh, one of the things that I liked is they had quite a few visitors in the room of the TAC meeting, and they passed the mic around the room so everybody who was there could introduce themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a way to do it. Mojave, the board meeting doesn't do that. And often I even talked to, I think, a couple of board members at another meeting, probably the Monday night dinner meeting, about the fact that you don't know who's talking when they're talking. They don't identify themselves. When they respond to issues that they're talking about, you can't see their faces. You see the top of their head over their computer or something, and they have no idea who's there. And I did find out, do you sit over there? I was talking to this one woman, and anyway, I thought it was a good deal because of the range of people that were at that meeting. There were quite a few representatives from other water districts and other aspects of the water field in this area. One of the things was an update on the George Air Force Base. I think, yeah, you would have liked that. Apparently there is jet fuel plumes coming up through the water, the groundwater. And there was a fellow there who was his name was Calvin. I didn't catch the last name. It obviously very controversial. And they talked a long time about this. And there was someone from Adelanto who said that they really need to work specifically with the Air Force Base with this issue, and they were not being consulted. They were not in the room. We know about that kind of activity during the discussion of what really impacts them. So that was really interesting, and I was fascinated by that discussion. And if anybody wants, there was supporting documents posted, but I didn't gather them for a report. But if you're interested, you can go to the TAC agenda and click on the links. The other was a Mojave River area groundwater update, and this was fascinating too. They had a number of graphs that showed how the water flows during a rainstorm and how far the water goes down the riverbed of the Mojave River, which I always kind of assumed was an underground river because you drive around and you never see any real water. But apparently after storms, it does flow for a while. And then he talked about how far it goes during these different storms. It was really fascinating. That's why I like those meetings better. They really talk about water, rather than, boring stuff. Let's see. Tony Winkle was the director of water resources that gave that report. And the bottom line apparently was the river groundwater is not full and it's declining. I think that's the end of what I want to talk about.
Director Short.
Yeah, I just, one quick question. So last, board meeting, during, the general manager's comments, she talked about how the US Water Alliance funding was frozen. And I know that, there's been some legal challenges to these frozen funds. I want to know if there's an update on that.
Yes, there's some prospect of that project resuming under their funding. It's not final yet, but I think it's looking positive.
Okay,
what I've
good.
heard last.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
good question.
Now, for the benefit of observers, Charles and Phil M. Now, if you don't know it, every check that leaves this place is signed by either one or two of the directors. We review all of the checks that go out of this place. It's either one or two, because if the amount of the check is over $5,000, it requires the signature of three people: the general manager, usually director of finance, or definitely two directors sign them, such as tonight. We signed checks. And also monthly, as you heard tonight, we do go through the check register virtually line by line. The directors do, and then if we have any issues or questions with where money went, that we ask them of the qualified people that are here, namely the director of finance or the general manager for that matter. So the money part is watched very carefully. This sort of pertains to the comment that there's going to be less visibility. I tend to, my thought was that there would tend to be more visibility by doing some of this finance stuff at the board meeting, in that we tend to have more people here than we do at finance, just regular people in an audience. Usually we might have Bill sitting over there where Kathleen is now, but lately he's come in. But as far as the attendance goes by the public, I think we will be more visible. And to me, being visible about our financial stuff is key. Because as I remind people frequently at the market, that it's not just about the water, it's about the money too. And so to do things that enhance our visibility, I think is a good thing. And also there was some issue with the redundancy of taking staff and having, we're talking about the general manager and the director of finance in this meeting. You do those, David? I can't remember. So we have David,
Yeah.
Director of Administration, at those meetings, just to where we talk amongst ourselves and then repeat the whole process at the board meeting. So staff time was a factor with my decision, which the president of the board has virtually no distinguishable authority over what takes place relative to board activities, operations and such. But one of the few that we have is the ability to control these committees and also the ad hoc committees, which are committees that are created, usually it's by a couple of directors and they're for a specific purpose. And when the specific purpose is accomplished, the ad hoc committee is dissolved by the president of the board. And that's kind of all that I do, really, other than preside at the meetings. That's why they call me the president, is because I preside at meetings. So that's a general response to this kind of thing. And it could be argued too that, well, if you're sensitive about exposure and shining a light on the finances and stuff, why just cancel the meeting? Well, it's because nobody was paying any attention and it sucked up staff time during a time when our staff is pretty busy. I mean, as it is, we've heard the term or the name NBS at least 2 times in 2 different areas during this meeting. And they are sort of a accounting firm of some sort that does projects and does a lot of our accounting for us that we don't have enough staff here to accomplish. And so it's an efficiency and to some degree an expertise thing too. We've had a second NVS person come to the farmer's market. Very impressive young man, very thoughtful. He thinks before he speaks. I was impressed. So anyway, that's I think enough from me on that. It was not that is an authority that I have. I don't have to consult anybody to do these committee things. The meetings I attended, one of them was the Copper Mountain Mesa board meeting, where essentially I just updated them on some of the stuff that we've talked about at other board meetings. And by the way, I did tell the president, whatever her title is, that we were going to talk about the bond tonight. Just as a courtesy to let her know we were going to do this, which I'll talk more about it at the next board meeting out there. That's Michelle that I emailed about this. I missed the Mojave Water Agency board meeting. It was, I don't know how other people handle this, but income tax to me is all consuming. It puts me in another space-time continuum. I thought one day was another and all that stuff, and I just missed it. However, I did listen to the recording of the meeting, and they were kind of sketching out how they were substantially how they were going to do their strategic plan this time, and it was gold. I really thought it was. As a matter of fact, I'm going to listen to it. I listened to it on Sunday. I'm going to listen to it again. The guy, I don't know if it was. This is that thing where you don't see who's speaking and all that kind of stuff. But he talked about how, and I do it with our mission and vision, mostly mission and values that we have here. But he was talking about how he wanted the intent of something like a strategic plan is to outline what in the heck is going to be going on in an organization. And what he wanted to do, one of his intentions was to translate strategic intentions into day-to-day work. In other words, everybody is always aware and conscious of what essentially what the mission is and what they're supposed to be doing to accomplish the mission. And they made it sound very relevant. And to me, it piqued my interest in going back to our strategic plan and studying the thing more and trying to bring that into my performance here and to remind people too. Because one of the things that concerns me is, especially when we have these diverse groups of employees in different places on the property, that there could be drift here and there that the general manager specifically might not be aware of. And so to always have something like the strategic plan, our mission and our values in mind as we perform our daily tasks is really critical. And So I'm gonna get back to this more and more as I go, see if it can help me do better. Another thing I did was, I went to the Landers Homestead Valley Association meeting on the 10th. They hold those in Landers off of Ricci Road at the Belfield Hall, I think they call it. It's fairly close to the post office. And the relevant part, this is like for real. I've said this before, the sheriff has a representative there, county has a representative there.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's others too, highway patrol may be there. So it's a real meeting. They had some problems with their certification as a nonprofit. And so I think they're having to catch up on, they didn't know about this nonprofit and a requirement that they register with the state and all as a nonprofit and all this kind of stuff. And so it was a big deal to them. That's been, it went on for years. It's something to do with how they changed their post office address to their actual meeting hall address or something. So they didn't get notices from the state about all this stuff. It went on for years. So I think they're gonna have to pay the back dues, and also there's gonna be a $500 fine they're gonna have to pay. Somebody like that makes their income from a thrift store,
Right.
it's a lot of money.
Right.
But anyway, what's more relevant is we had a report from Marina West there about the thing with the Joshua trees and all that, and how extremely cumbersome that's going to be. She's been attending some meetings and stuff about ways that might be impacted, so that we don't, as a community of water companies, we don't suffer so much from something that was written at a time when people didn't really realize, in my opinion, what the scope of it was going to be. It got me thinking. I was over at my neighbor's house the other day, and he's got a Joshua tree in his backyard. And I thought, if they find out about that, you might have to tear down your shop building, dig up the concrete, and tear down the competing tree that's right next to it, and look for pups while you're at it. So anyway, Marina talked about that. I think I've taken a lot of time. I thank you all for your patience. General Manager's report.
Thank you. I just have one thing I thought might be of interest to the board, and that is the LAIF transfer of funds to camp is an ongoing process. Everything's set up now. We did a lot of testing with, excuse me, with wiring instructions and ACH instructions back and forth to make sure that everything was set up properly before we started to transfer any substantial funds. And so by tomorrow, 2.395 million, which is the amount of the emergency capital replacement fund, will be in camp. And, again, the process went a little bit slower due to some of this verification that I've done, trying to be extra cautious and sending funds in smaller amounts. However, fortunately, the interest rates are very comparable right now between LAIF and camp. LAIF is at 4.34% and camp at 4.51%. So less than a fifth of a percentage point between the two funds. So very, very comparable. So it's not, a matter of to try to increase our earnings. Really, we want to be careful with how we run this process. So I thought that might be of interest, and I don't know if David has anything.
I'm just looking forward to March 5th. I'll be bringing a presentation to the board on some meter information and revisiting the cap. So working on that.
Yes.
Look forward to that night.
Well, thank you very much for everybody attending. Future director meetings are on the back of the agenda packet. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned at 6:49.
Cool.